Good evening, good evening, good evening. Now, for the first time in a long, long time, I was tempted to go, Woffy! Oh, I thought he was going to do it and finally win the British Speedway GP, but it almost seems destined to be out of his reach. Still, it was a good, no, great GP, arguably the best GP of the year for my money. They needed to do it, of course, and they did. Now, in other news, in the Plymouth versus Berwick match, no Richie Worrell, no Steve Boxall, withdrawn for medical reasons, and then the SCB statement today. Only in Speedway. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Nicely timed there.
Yes.
I'll do my best.
So you're taking him 13 years.
Well done.
No, it's longer than 13.
Yeah, good God, let's not even go there. So I think we might start with that British GP.
Yeah.
Then we might talk about a certain draw, but whoops. So yeah, it was a good one.
It was a good one, yeah.
You was there, of course.
Obviously, yeah. It was a really good day. A lot was made, obviously, of what happened last year, and you can't hide away from the fact that last year was a disaster, really, that they needed to make better, and I think they did. They did a lot of work on the track. I believe it was new shale that they put down. I think the early signs were encouraging from the test event that they did last week. A lot of the riders who took part in that said that they were, very, very impressed with the track. I think Martin Vashlik, obviously, who won the GP, said it was the best prepared track he's seen at Cardiff, and can't really disagree with that. To be fair, it really did hold up well, and in a season where I think there's been not too much, really to shout about in terms of excitement in the GPs. I think your statement there about it being the best GP of the season probably isn't that far off the mark. Warsaw was very good, obviously, the second round, but very, very encouraging, and
right from the heat one.
It was good. I mean, obviously, it was a superb way for Ty Wolfington to start with that last first ride. Yeah, you just felt all the way. I just felt all the way through. I mean, I was on that third and fourth bend, and you just felt all the way through that he had the pace to to.
He looked fast, didn't he? He looked fast.
Yeah, and whether he would have won it, I'm not so sure, because he didn't really hit that sort of height again. Obviously, he didn't win another race that night. Okay, he was leading the race that he came off in. Although he wasn't, obviously part of Smiles, and it wasn't hugely, wasn't a long way behind him. He was obviously putting, maybe that possibly contributed to it. Was just a little bit of.
Schmarshlick was a lucky boy. You have to say.
Oh yeah, without doubt. I mean, he sort of muddled his way through into the semi-finals, but I would imagine when he won that semi-final, I would imagine most people in the stadium thought, well, he's going to win it now. You wouldn't have put it past him. He never ever. A bit like what people used to say about Ivan Major, you write Ivan off at your peril, you write the Bartman off at your peril as well. Because he can,
the Bartman.
Yeah,
wow.
that's the nickname. So, but I mean, obviously he's got pretty much one hand on the trophy.
He's come away from it with his lead increased slightly.
Yeah, which looks unlikely. I mean, I think Freddie was obviously very frustrated to end up losing that third place on the line to him, and that was probably Fred's last chance, I think, to sort of put a little bit of this doubt into people's minds about whether Smalsey will hold on to win it. I mean, Smalsey, as we've said, probably hasn't been at his best in the GPs, but he's done enough. He hasn't really needed to be. No,
we don't know, obviously, whether Ty will be taking part in the next GP. Is it three?
Two more there. There's Voyens obviously in a couple of weeks' time, and then we will
But if he can't, I mean, the chances of him making the top six, is it now? Very, very small. That's going to be a big decision for somebody to make.
It is. I mean, on the one hand, obviously, you've got his 3 World Championships. He's been one of the best, one of the most consistent riders in the series over the last few, decade, if you like, since he won his first title in 2013. But he hasn't won a GP for 3 years. He hasn't been close to winning a World Championship for 3 years, and you've got Dan Bewley and possibly Robert Lambert who are in the mix as well. So are they going to want another British rider? I mean, he's
3-time world champion.
Yeah. 3 times world champion, but his record in recent seasons in the GP has not been great.
Has he done enough in that British GP to make people think?
Might have given him a bit of a stay of execution. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's fair to say Ty still divides a lot of opinion from a lot of people, but he's certainly box office, and I think certainly somebody that the SGP can market itself against. Got to pick up one thing. First of all, obviously the other two British riders, Robert Lambert started off slowly, but he was looking good, and I thought he looked like he might be with a good chance of winning it. Obviously, just disappointing in the end not to even get into the final. Dan Bewley was disappointing, but I was a little bit disappointed really that he won 2 races, and in both of those races didn't do a lap of honour. Didn't like that.
Right.
That's.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, quite a few of the riders didn't do that, but I think in your home Grand Prix, you should really, unless you've got an issue with your bike that you need to get sorted out, or you're in the next race or anything like that. Fair enough, but I thought I was disappointed by that, to be honest.
Well, I mean, I didn't see that because they didn't show you that. But I would have been disappointed. I must admit, because that's part of the sport. You want to acknowledge your heroes.
Yeah, I think the biggest hero probably of the night was Jack Holder. I mean, that was an astonishing performance considering he was.
Yeah, absolutely. I was rooting for him when Ty was out. I thought you're absolutely right. It was astonishing.
Yeah.
You could see. I mean, you probably wouldn't have seen the pictures of him in the pits, but you could see the pain.
You could see that on the screens in the stadium. He was clearly struggling with it, but I guess it's one of those things when you're out on the track racing, you don't feel it because of the adrenaline. But that was a Herculean effort really to get a lot of the older fans probably would say that was a little bit like Peter Collins finishing second in the 1977 final with a broken leg. So
or what's his face, Kenny Carter
winning the British title with her.
Yeah. Brian says the sound is a bit on the low side again.
Just turned it up a little bit for him.
Or does he need to turn up his hearing aid?
I can think of somebody who's sitting not too far from him that might be saying that as we speak. So
I don't think I can turn it up anymore because it's blowing my ears.
Yeah.
Oh, that don't matter.
No, exactly.
Sorry?
So we've got a few, and we will certainly return to that. We've got a few comments coming up on the shout box. The Plymouth, which we should keep our eye on, by the way, the Plymouth versus Berwick match tonight. So, good evening to everybody that's taken part on the shout box. We'll get round to some of your comments now. Simon wants to know, Matt, were Wolves poor, Leicester good, or was it another theory that's kicking around allegedly?
I have seen a few people suggesting that.
Do tell.
I think we were poor.
Right.
Leicester rode well. I mean, as I've said in recent weeks, really, we've sort of pushed our luck a little bit at home over the last sort of 6 weeks, really, if you like. It's quite something that we haven't managed to lose a match in that period of time because some of the performances have been, it's something sort of like the equivalent of a Premier League team being 2-1 down and they score two goals in the last sort of 2 minutes of injury time or something like that. We've had to dig it out of the fire, which is commendable. But Leicester wrote well. I mean, Max Frick was outstanding. Nobody was. I mean, there was a brilliant race. Anybody who hasn't seen Heat 15 last night, it's on YouTube now. Go and watch it. It was a phenomenal race between Sam Masters and Max Frick. But Frick was astonishing. I think he wasn't going to be beaten all night. Leicester
seemed to have found the mojo.
Yeah, I think there was pressure on Leicester. They knew they had to get a result against a team that, of course, is already guaranteed a place in the final.
My understanding is if Leicester go to Peterborough on Thursday and get a point, so if they get the aggregate point.
Well, I think the first leg, they won 57-33 in the corresponding fixture. So Peterborough have picked up, in fairness. So if Leicester needed to win the meeting, they'd be struggling, I think, because Peterborough have been in great form recently, just a little bit too late, unfortunately. But I think now that result at Monmouth last night has probably now just pushed Leicester back into the box seat for getting that last spot. But disappointing, obviously, our last ever home meeting in the league, and of course it ends up in defeat. But there you go.
But more Speedway to come. You could win the thing yet.
There is still more Speedway to come.
Who knows? Okay, so more comments. The SCB have. So this is why we have to be careful, and why there is such thing as Chinese whispers. So Craig Smee has said, and it's a factually incorrect statement. So I will correct you, Craig. I know that you didn't mean it to be factually incorrect. So SCB just issued a statement saying one rider from each team in the Plymouth versus Berwick match have shown a negative alcohol drug sample and been suspended from the meeting. Actually, what they've shown, I don't think they've mentioned alcohol or drug. They've just said a non-negative.
Well, I've got the statement in front of me, actually. So, the SCB arranged for 4 riders to be randomly alcohol and drug tested at the Plymouth v Berwick fixture on Tuesday, the 5th of September. Unfortunately, 1 rider from each team produced a non-negative result on their test, and they were therefore excluded from the event. The samples will now be sent to the laboratory for further analysis. Both riders will have their SCB registrations suspended until the results are confirmed from the lab.
Okay, so what's happened?
Yeah, just one more. Just a second.
You're
just
doing
trying
a,
to get it.
Yeah, we've got a bit of trolling going on. Okay.
I'll go back to.
Okay, thank you very much.
Tell me where we are.
Keep going, keep going. That's it, that'll do. Richard Thomas wants to know, was the crowd at Cardiff didn't look great?
There was all sorts of stories kicking around about that they'd only sold 7,000 tickets or things like that. There was a lot more in there than 7,000. Mm-hmm. I thought it would be a lot lower than it was.
Okay.
I think they've got a lot of sort of convincing to do to sort of persuade people to give it another chance, and hopefully Saturdays will convince more people to say, I'll give it another go next year. I know that obviously a lot of people complaining about the hotel prices, but you can't really do much about that. They obviously will take advantage of that. I had a little check earlier about the hotel prices for next year's date, and they've already gone high. So whether they've had a tip off before the date was confirmed, we don't know. I mean, it is in holiday period as well, so
yeah. Okay, well, it is what it is. Just get yourself down there and get yourself back out, I guess.
Yeah, it may well have been better to sort of congested all the supporters that were there into one area, sort of, so that it makes it look a bit bigger rather than.
It didn't look, to me. It didn't look that bad. I mean, I could see there were empty spaces here, there, and everywhere, but it didn't look that bad.
The middle tier looked quite
full.
Quite decent. Yeah.
Well,
what was the atmosphere like? It sounded.
It was good. It was good. I thought the build up to it was disappointing compared to what we've had in the past. I mean, I've been in there when they've had some great acts to, when Susie Quattro was there about 20 years ago. That was brilliant. Edwin Starr, I think, did the first one in 2001. You had the Blues Brothers as well. You had people like that, Tony Hadley. So they've had some great acts that have done the pre-meeting build-up. But there was none of that. There hasn't been any of that for the last few years. But it sort of just like went straight into the parade. There was not really any sort of build-up to anything like that, which was a bit disappointing. Right. I thought the fireworks didn't last very long either at the end of the meeting, which somebody didn't believe me when I said they don't open the roof for the fireworks. Do you know what? That's we usually sit on the in the middle of the last bend, but we sat just on the back straight this season, and I was watching the fireworks going as I was filming them, and I didn't realise until I looked back on it, some of them were actually bouncing off the roof.
Oh, okay. No. Well,
if you watch the video, I'll put on
that sounds a bit dangerous, doesn't it?
Don't sound right.
I don't know whether they'd sort of preempted the fact that maybe the crowd was going to be low after last year, so they didn't sort of go over the top on the fireworks. But I think the racing more than made up for it. Again, Cardiff, fantastic city. There's loads to do there. I mean, I know people who make a whole weekend of it. And I think Ben has said in the past, he's booked weekends to go down there, and he hasn't been able to do half of the stuff that he's been able to do.
Talking to Ben, we are
going to speak
to him shortly about his little trip.
Yep.
To see if he's still got anything left on his feet. So you might want to address this one, actually, because I know it's something that you've spoke about before. Duncan Pemberton said, isn't it about time we reverted to what points you score is what are your GP points? A mockery when someone scrapes in with 8 but then goes home with double that. I bet Ty Woffenden wishes he could go home with the points he scored.
I preferred it when every point that you scored in the meeting counted towards your tally, because it meant that every point was crucial. Then even if you couldn't, even if you've gone into your last race and you've only got a point or something, and you win and won your last race, those 3 points, even though it wouldn't get you into the top 8 for the meeting, it could still be crucial come the end of the season. I thought it was a change that was made really unnecessarily.
Okay, I mean, I like the change but I can see both sides of the story. Craig Smith says he's seen a few rumours flying about, not only a few, that Rye House are looking to return next season. Not sure if you have heard anything.
I haven't seen anything on Rye House. I saw some photographs of the place a few weeks ago, and he looked a sorry state, really.
I've heard that there's been the application for the housing and everything has been turned down. I'd heard that, but as we know with the Coventry situation, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, does it? Okay. And Brian says that sound is a bit on the low side again.
No, I think it's the same.
Craig Smee's named the couple of riders that might be the ones that have been suspended. We don't know that. We suspect that, obviously. If you put 2 and 2 together, that would appear to be 4. But
obviously, we do have to tread very, very carefully on this. We don't want to be libeling.
So, but however, it's still not good. 2 riders have had a non-negative, as they put it.
Yeah.
A positive test is really what I should say. There'll be more on that later, I suppose.
Yep.
Cardiff crowd looked better than I had expected after last year's fiasco, says Brian Buck, but believe everyone was impressed with some outstanding racing and an excellent presentation. The race, I can't comment to the presentation, but the racing was certainly spot on.
Yeah, it was. It was very good.
Yeah, and Michael Jukes pointing out that Holder got knocked off in Heat 4, but still carried on. Very brave. Yep. Very brave. Simon Pritchford. Sheffield got off lightly on Monday, only losing 53-37 to the Panthers. If Artem started Heat 1, Vadim started Heat 3, and Bomber didn't have Artem off in Heat 10, it could have been a bigger defeat. Sounded like quite a meeting.
Yeah, it did a bit, yeah.
Craig Smee was impressed with the British GP racing, and I'm seriously considering going next season now. Not been for a few years and lost faith in it watching the debacle last season, but this year we had a good racing, so to the track staff, thumbs up, and they simply had to get it right.
It was simply they couldn't have afforded to get that. If they'd have got it wrong again, there would have been serious doubts, I think, over the future of Cardiff. As it is, of course, they've got a date for 2024. What happens after that? Who knows?
With Woofy injured, Lagota coming off last night at Peterborough, will he ride again? Rocklaw will have the say, I suppose. Robert Lambert's been brilliant around the Norfolk Arena. He has. The last 2 meetings, took the golden couple from the back last night.
Yep. One of the fastest times of the season. At least he's giving the Stars fans
something to shout about. Yeah. Absolutely. We could do with something like that down at Birmingham. And maybe we'll finish with our league campaign with a win tomorrow. It would be nice against Plymouth, but I don't really want to talk about that too much. What I would like to talk about is the Championship Pairs meeting.
Yeah.
First of all, well done to Glasgow.
Yep, Glasgow.
I had to dig deep for that. Then, well done to Glasgow for winning it. There's a lot of talk about. No, I wasn't there. So I can only go by the reports that I've heard, but there was a lot of, shall we say, bad press about Troy Batchelor, another Birmingham rider. Thoughts?
Well, I was talking to somebody at Perry Bar who's quite a prominent figure in Speedway, and he was absolutely scathing of Troy Batchelor. I think he said something along the lines of...
You can tell me who it is after.
I felt cheated and I didn't even pay to go in. He was absolutely incensed by his performance. He really was.
Right.
It just hasn't worked, I don't think, from a Birmingham perspective, and I rather suspect he won't be getting an invite to come back to the club in 2024.
No. Will he get an invite from anybody?
Well, he certainly hasn't done himself any favours, I don't think. Admittedly, I don't think he's the only Birmingham rider that won't be getting the club back, but...
Not by a long chalk, I don't think. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that later on in the season. For the people that don't know, my understanding is that he didn't want to ride. And he showed his disdain for the paying crowd and so on by just turtling around the back, pulling wheelies in his first race. That's basically what I heard.
Yeah.
As I say, I wasn't there, but if that is an accurate description, should he even be riding for Birmingham tomorrow?
Well, what do you do? I mean, it's
a difficult one.
It's a difficult one, really, isn't it? Because if
going to be very interesting to me to see the reaction
of the crowd
tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the crowd's like tomorrow. To be fair, because it's against a team that have probably had an even worse season than Birmingham. It's a nothing meeting, really. Neither side can obviously make the top 6 now.
No.
But I think it's an opportunity really for Birmingham to finish the season on a bit of a high and try and get another win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll be the last match because we've got a Cradley, Alan Graham memorial meeting to go on. And I would suggest, given that that's a challenge match, we might not have Troy Batchelor riding at that one. Who knows? A lot, I think, will depend on the reaction from the crowd, such as it will be tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, Speedway shooting itself in the foot once again with that one. Did you want to check up on YouTube while we're thinking about it?
Of course, I do, yes. Nick Green said sounds okay with him on YouTube. Darren Reynolds, good evening, chaps. Still think Woffy has a lot to offer the sport, and am I the only one who thinks Schmarzlick's riding borders on the dangerous to other riders?
I've heard this.
I've seen
before.
a few people who've said this. I think he does ride on the limit occasionally.
I think he's a skilled enough rider to do it. That's the thing.
Yeah. I think to a degree. I mean, any rider that wins a world championship has to have a nasty side about them. I mean, you've got to be to sort of make it to the very top.
I prefer to say a determined side about them rather than nasty.
Prepared to be ruthless. I think is probably the best the way to look at it. I can't think of the only world champion I can think of that probably didn't have that side to him was probably Janno Pedersen. But I mean, he had the skill to be able to sort of to do it without being able to go to that sort of level. But no, I mean, you look at the likes of Nielsen, the likes of Olsen, the likes of Major, Carlson. They were
Pennell.
They were friends to people on the track, but if they were in the way, they'd pushed them out the way. If they,
that whole Carter Pennell thing was I
think that probably went a little bit further than on track rivalry. Didn't it? I think there were other things involved in that, which is probably best not to get into. And we'll be here for hours if we.
Sheffield again very poor last night. Wolves should have no problem beating them in the semi-final. Do we know who they will be having in the semi-final?
It's looking like it's probably going to be Wolves. So
Aces should overcome Leicester or Ipswich, setting up Aces Wolves final. Aces is going to be hard to beat for any team over 2 legs. Yep. Felt sorry for Anders Rowe, who was flying for Sil last year.
He really did.
Absolutely gutted.
It was a really, really good ride, and he was very comfortable as well in the second place. And unfortunate that happened, but hopefully he'll get another chance in years, not to be a rider that not just rides in Grand Prix as a reserve, but maybe as a permanent rider. Who knows?
So Brian says the point scoring system at the GPs is nonsensical, and I also can't see the point of those numbers that the riders display on the rear of their colours. What purpose do they serve? It's for the riders. It's very important because it's a tool. It's a marketing tool.
That's why Ty Woofton has got. Obviously got his number as 108 because obviously that's his Twitter handle as well. So it's predominantly it's used. I mean, personally, I would prefer them to have number 1 to number 15, but this is the way they want to go.
Alan Appleton's not enjoying the programme.
No,
bye then. You don't have to listen to this. It's not.
He said it's very boring. I don't know whether he's pointing the finger at you or Matt, but he's bored. He's bored basically.
Okay, well, sorry about that. John Bird said something. I can't see what he said. There you go. Heard this a few times now. Peterborough moving to Rye House, but also seen Peterborough Arena with housing application got problems with the council.
Well, I've noticed in recent weeks there's now a petition being put up to try and stop it from happening, which seems a bit late in the day because it's been ongoing for nearly a year. I had to look at the number of signatures on there, and there's not that many, so there just seems to be a bit of apathy really about it at the moment. But
do we have an address for that we can put up?
Yeah, we can put it up on the chat, can't we?
Yeah. Yes, Mike, BSN never showed him. This is talking about Troy Batchelor, of course, but the commentator said, what is he doing wheelies for?
That's a reply to...
Okay, it's not happening, apparently, for the Peterborough thing. John Bulmer and the British Under-19s restaging. Somebody might need to help me. Okay. Well, there's a few comments.
That's the Under-19 racing that was run at Birmingham, wasn't it? And it was...
that's got to be restaged, of course, yes.
So that's going to be
That's another date, yeah. Okay, Fred Graham, thanks guys for mentioning Glasgow winning the pairs on the BSN coverage. It was mentioned about the lack of effort from Troy Batchelor. Shout out should be given to young Max Perry winning a heat for Plymouth and showing the correct attitude, even though
Seymour. Who is this Seymour?
even though track was difficult to start with. Okay. John Stutley, not happy. We paid £100 for a good seat, the four of us at Cardiff, only to find out that people who paid £20 and £25 were seated in the same place or better seats than us to make it look like there were lots of people for TV. Feel like we was ripped off.
I don't know whether they were doing that as a bit of a panic thing to sort of condense the crowd in a bit more because of the lower numbers. So,
but yeah, that's what happens. Yeah. It does that.
Dave Twine said, I listened to Peterborough versus Sheffield last night and one commentator asked the other, what British team has Schmarzlik as an asset? Had to have a laugh.
Is he still a...
He's not, no, he never became a Burnie. He didn't ride for enough meetings for us to become an asset.
Was it one he rode or two?
Yeah. One and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Is Birmingham to close end of this season or next? What's happening with planned redevelopment? I don't think we're closing this season or next from reading what's been said.
Yeah.
I only know that there are plans for us to move somewhere. I don't know where that somewhere is, or even if anybody knows where that somewhere is, but I know that Nigel Toll is looking. He's been very open about that. So, yeah. Not sure if you've heard SCB have released a statement. Yes, we've actually read that out earlier.
Planning permission, there we go.
No planning application has been submitted for Perry Bar as yet. The leaseholders have had discussions with the council, but that's all at this point.
I think the council have got other things on the mind at the moment, haven't they? So,
yeah. Rich Thomas says Batch has been like that for years, never puts a great amount of effort if he misses the gate. My understanding is that he didn't even try to make the gate in this particular instance. I don't know. I wasn't there. I have to reiterate that. Okay. So we should have a look at actually... we've got Ben Clifton coming on in 3 minutes, so we'll actually... we might as well go straight to that now because we won't have time to do what I was about to suggest. We could have a look at who we've got in the playoffs for each of the leagues, because it's pretty settled now, isn't it?
Obviously, the
you knew where I was going with that, didn't you?
Yeah.
I could see you desperately typing on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
So, where are we starting?
Well,
the Premier League is obviously...
Well, what I've done, I've just sent the link for the Peterborough petition to sign. It's there, so
in the Premier League, obviously, there's Bellevue.
Okay, so Bellevue, they are there. Obviously, 44 points from 24. Wolves, of course, they're 37 from 22, so 2 matches left, both away. And then we've got Sheffield, 35 from 23, Ipswich, 34 from 24, and Leicester, 34 from 23. So let's have a look at what each team have got in terms of matches. So Ipswich have got no matches left, of course, as we know. Mm-hmm. So Leicester, they have got to go to Peterborough. That, of course, is going to be on Thursday. Of course, Wolves also at Peterborough as well, but that match is obviously going to be, not relevant because Wolves obviously already there.
Yeah.
And we've got Sheffield out home to Wolves on Thursday as well. So Sheffield and Peterborough both, and Leicester both still with matches left. Of course, Leicester have got to go to Peterborough. They've got a sizable lead
I think we can say that the top three are there, can't we?
Yeah, I think so. It's
just
the fourth one.
It's Ipswich or Leicester, and if Leicester get that aggregate point, which you would have to say, they
yeah.
have to perform pretty badly not to.
Yeah, I think Leicester now with that result on Monday, I think they are in the box seat to get that spot.
And the Championship, obviously, we've got Poole are up there.
Poole 32, Oxford 30, Glasgow 26, Redcar 23, Scunthorpe 20, so that's the top five, and then there's a bit of a gap to the rest of the team. Edinburgh on 9 points from 13, so they've got 9 points and they're still getting.
They need to address this, don't they?
Yeah,
next year. It's terrible that you've got you've got that big gap between fifth place and sixth makes the playoffs.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
needs to be.
I think our producer wants us to.
No, I'm not going to rush you on.
I think he was just saying hello.
Yeah, just fine.
Am I to understand we have Ben on the phone?
Evening, gents. How we doing?
Good evening.
Hello,
How are you doing?
Yeah.
Surprisingly well, to be honest.
So tell us. Well, obviously the most important thing, I guess, is how much money did you raise?
At the moment, we're just over £3,000, which is obviously a long way off what we hope to get, but it's still a sizable total. So
that's a big amount.
That's massive.
But people can still donate.
the Just Giving page is still open, and all the details can be found through the Facebook page. Charlie's also in the process of sorting out an after party. We've got various bits and bobs that we can raffle off that riders have given us prior to the event and whatnot. So he's got some bands involved in that. So hopefully we'll be able to announce some details around that in the next week or so.
Fantastic. Can you remind everybody where all the money's going to?
So it's going three ways. The first charity, obviously the Speedway related one, is the Speedway Riders Benevolent Fund. The second one is Minds, and that's actually for Minds South Kent, because it's the localist one for me. And obviously, you know, there's the mental health issues that Speedway riders have faced over recent years. That's another, also a very relevant charity. And the third one is Macmillan Cancer Support. And again, if you know anybody, or if you don't know anybody that's been affected by cancer, then you're a lottery winner in my eyes. So, three really important charities.
Okay, fantastic. Tell us about how it all went.
Well, it's very different stories between myself and Charlie's, to be fair, because Charlie got such awful blisters right at the very early stages that honestly, I honestly put my hands up and say I don't think I'd have been able to complete the walk if I'd have had the injuries that Charlie was carrying from day one. He's basically got no bottoms of his feet left.
Well,
it was honestly, and I don't want to. Hopefully, most people have finished their dinners by now. But the smell of when he was squeezing fluid out of his feet was just.
You have to go there, didn't you?
Honestly, I will never see Charlie. He can have the best perfume on in the world, and I'm still going to have that smell memory, I'm sure.
Yeah, and you've given it all of us. Thank you very much for that.
It's the least I could do. Yeah. No, honestly, it was. I genuinely set off thinking, I'm just going for I don't want to make it too flippant, but I thought it's walking. How hard is it going to be? Mm-hmm. You do 30 miles in a day, and it's blimey, this is hard work. But when you get up in the morning again at sort of 6 o'clock in the morning, and then got to do another 30 miles on top, when you see these challenges like the sports relief and the things where people, you know, whether they cycle or walk or boat or do whatever they're doing, and they say about the emotional journey they've been on and the highs and the lows and everything like that, I've always thought, well, what's that about? You knew what you signed up for. You've only been riding a bike up a road, or you've been doing this, that and the other. Honestly, my mindset is completely different now, because there was times where you couldn't drag me off the floor emotionally, and there was other times where I was just crying through, you know, elation almost. It was a real extreme of emotions that I never ever expected it to be.
And did you get on the track?
No.
Oh, that's
no. Unfortunately, we're nobody's was kind of what the implication was from the Speedway authorities.
Yeah.
But Monster Joe stepped in, and so we finished on the rig. And so Charlie was most happy that he managed to finish with a group of Monster girls And so he was absolutely over the moon with that. It was worth the walk for him all of a sudden. So yeah, no, it was unfortunately we didn't get to go on there, and that it's sort of a bit of a strange story with the Speedway world, because all of the smaller parties, the riders and bits like that, couldn't have been more supportive. All the clubs have been sharing our stuff and really getting involved. But actually, when you got to the top level, obviously Chris Morton's doing it for the same cause, so that's fantastic. Everything he's raised is also going to the benefit of Speedway riders. But it did have a little bit of a feeling of that, actually. A couple of old boys from Kent that nobody knows, it wasn't all that important to some people. So, that is what it is, isn't it? The money's still going to the right people.
Exactly.
It's going to help some people. So, it was never done for myself or Charlie's ego. It was just we felt that the exposure for our charities wasn't there that it was for other people, sort of thing. But as we say, we had a conversation with Chesil Radio. We're very, very supportive, and actually dedicated a whole 6-hour show to us, which was slightly surreal.
Okay.
But they had a guy that called in that had been suffering with mental health issues, and actually, while following our journey on all their updates and everything like that, he actually went and sought help. So even if we didn't raise a penny, the potential is there that we actually might have saved someone's life, which, that was one of the times when I was very, very emotional after that conversation. I can honestly, it completely changes what you're doing it for and why you're doing it.
Ben, I just want to ask one question. I mean, why? what was the prompt? What made you think, there's something I've got to do here?
I always, Speedway's one of those sports where you as a spectator, you're always taken out. I very, very rarely put anything back in, and I said to Charlie as we were going down to Cardiff last year that I'd really like to do something to put back into the sport. And I think I jokingly said we'll walk to Cardiff next year, and Charlie being Charlie, just point blank went, "Yeah, okay then." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh," and from there it's kind of. Over the months, it was getting closer and closer, and then all of a sudden, I'm stood there for the first mile in a pair of underpants, walking a mile up away from Ashford United Football Club. Some of the challenges.
That's another image I didn't want. By the way,
that's two really bad images I've got now.
So, what sort of average mileage per day did you do, Ben?
Well, it was averaging just over 30 in the end, because we did take a couple of longer routes just to avoid main roads where we could. There's so many A roads and B roads that obviously have got not got footpaths, but there's no verge or anything like that. So you're really in the life of articulated lorries coming towards you and that. So one day I was meant to be heading northwest. Actually, was heading southwest for 22 miles just because it was a nice walk along the River Avon, and was avoiding walking along the A4. It also then meant we had country lanes uphill for the last 10, 12 miles, which was pretty horrendous, to be honest. So if you put into Google Maps, for example, that you want to walk 30 miles, it will tell you can do that depending on the terrain and that, between sort of 9 hours 50 and 10 hours 20, which is great for the first mile or two that you're walking. You can keep to that pace. But once you've done sort of 3-4 hours of walking, your pace almost halves at least. So then that 30 mile stint is taking 14-15 hours. And so that's literally all day long, one foot in front of the other. And, as much as the physical challenge, it's the boredom as well. You're literally just, for a lot of people, that would be 2 working shifts, all done in one go, no tea break, just plodding on, like two old men just limping up the road at stages. It would have been we got a few toots and that along the way, and quite a few smiles and smirks in the later stages of it, because one thing my nan always used to say to me was about picking up my shoes. Well, she would have absolutely hated the last 2 days of that walk, because I was almost ice skating along.
Well, I mean, what I have to say is, if you decide to do this or something similar next year, please don't call me. It sounds horrendous.
I'm already looking to booking trains up at the moment.
Yeah.
But well done. Did you get to watch the GP?
Yeah. There's and my 3 and 4-year-old went down for their first Grand Prix as well, and a friend of ours managed to sort out tickets so I could sit with them. So that was fantastic. You know, it was, and they watched. You know, sometimes with the little kids, they get bored and that. They watched every single race, absolutely all the way to the end, and blowing their horns all the way through, and it's brilliant.
It was a good GP, I think.
It was the best one I've been to there, and I would argue it's possibly the best one I've been to anywhere. I've been to Warsaw a couple of times and a couple of others, and I would say, you know, there was overtaking from Heat 1.
Exactly.
When does that happen, even on the Polish tracks?
Well, that's right. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
It's just a shame there weren't a British winner to top it off, but, you know, there was enough good racing and that. And like I say, poor old Anders, how excellent would that have been for him to come in with 2 points?
It would have been, it would have been fantastic.
And it gives that would have given other young riders of the same, you know, the sort of the juniors in the league still. It'd have given them that thing. Actually, it is a step up. But on my day, I can compete with these boys.
Oh, that's right.
I would imagine that when he looks back on it, Anders Rowe will still have that because he did compete. He was there. He was comfortable in that second place. So that
he was keeping Jack Calder honest. You know, he looked like he was going out in the dirt to try and, you know, it looked like he was actually going to have a go at trying to win the race. And that's what you need from our youngsters, isn't it?
So I mean,
too often you hear them say about, it's all about getting experience and that. But actually, go out there and try and win something.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
You've got the ability, you've got the knowledge. There's just something in your head that's just saying actually competing is good enough. Go out there and win it.
Get the experience of being in the front.
Absolutely,
and he's had that experience. I mean, we've had Anders Rowe on this program, and he's a great.
You've also fired him once, haven't you?
I was just about to.
We thought we forgot about that.
That was his greatest time to phone before Saturday. That was.
Well, thank you for that.
I can also say I had a few drinks on Friday night, and I actually met the owner of Birmingham Speedway. And we sat there for a good sort of 45 minutes, and I actually really genuinely feared for the future of Birmingham Speedway. And after having had the conversation with him, I'm really excited for the future of your club. So I'm really
that's nice to hear. Thank you. That's
and what a genuine bloke! What a really lovely bloke he is.
Yes, he
so
is.
Open and honest, and I mean, we probably smoked too many cigarettes out in the smoking area, but we was out there putting the world to rights and everything. Honestly, I've never met him before, and he had all the time in the world for me. So. You know, it was really. Sometimes you have a conversation that you're not expecting to have, and you come away with a real big smile on your face. That was genuinely one of them.
He's a genuine guy, Ben. I mean, obviously we've all been lucky enough to meet him. So, and I think, obviously my club's obviously got doubts over it, as we know, but certainly no chance for next year. But hopefully Nigel can keep Speedway flying in the West Midlands by keeping Birmingham going.
Absolutely. Yeah. It needs. If you look a few years ago, it was the heartbeat of British Speedway, and all of a sudden it's the heartbeat's been ripped clean out, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's no heart. There is no heart. Yeah, well, that's great. That is. Thanks for sharing that, and I will pass on your comments to him when I see him tomorrow.
He's your love child, isn't he?
He's my love child.
They're brothers. They've never been seen in the same room together. Just
scary.
Just in the Hall of Mirrors.
Yeah. I'm saying nothing. Right. Well, thanks for coming on, Ben. All the best, mate.
Thanks for having me again.
And really well done. I just want to put this out there, though. There is no way we're doing a 6-hour show.
Yeah.
I just
lightweight.
No, with these two, you're joking. Right.
Cheers, Ben.
You take care,
Ben.
and go and look after your feet.
Thanks so much.
Take care, man.
Lads.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Right. Well, there is a meeting going on.
There's actually 2 meetings going on. Of course, there's Oxford Scunthorpe as well. But at Plymouth, it is currently 33 apiece after heat number 11. So that one's on a knife edge. And at Oxford, it is Oxford 26, Scunthorpe 16. And that is after heat number 7. So that one going through a little bit at a slower pace, but
absolutely. Well, I guess it's that time of the night.
It is. It certainly
when
is.
we look at how many fantastic points I've scored in the Nigel Pearson Prediction League.
A bit easier to read this week because there wasn't as many fixtures. So.
Yeah.
Did you see I got that right that time?
Yeah.
You just spoke over Nigel Pearson Prediction League. I've got it right.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you very much. I still couldn't be further from the bottom unless Tom died.
Where are you? Oh, you're 24th.
Yeah.
There you go. 132 points, and I'm on 100.
Can I just say?
I'm on 106. I'm on 106. That's.
Yeah. Okay. It's quite good to see 25 active members of this. When we started, it was about 10, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that. So
People having a
that's
go.
really cool.
Yeah.
It's a bit of fun. Come on.
Exactly.
It's a bit of fun.
Exactly.
At least you, Bear, could say that you're the best tipster in your family. So I can't even say that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The question is Simon Corbett going to win the damn
hat-trick.
thing again? Hat-trick.
Well, you don't need to ask him his address because you already know it, don't you? So
We're family friends now.
there's still a long way to go, and it's
You know what's going to? He's going to say, "Do I get something special for winning?" That's what he's going to say, isn't it? You know what the answer is?
No.
No,
That's the answer. So I didn't know what the answer was. That's right.
he's banned from playing it next year. Is that
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so shall we go for it then?
Okay.
Chris to go first.
Okay, first one up is tomorrow night in the NDL, Oxford against Kent.
Oxford by 4.
Actually, that's a fairly good shout. Oxford by 4.
Pluck that one out.
Oxford by 10.
There you go. Okay.
You're saying the same as him? then?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
4.
fair enough.
Yeah. I
All
went
right.
with 4. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Next up is Edinburgh against Poole.
Okay. This is a league meeting.
It is, yeah.
And this is a possible final. And it's up to me. I'm going to say, what am I talking about? I always keep getting Edinburgh and Glasgow mixed up, and I'm very sorry to both of those teams. And I know that is really, really.
Yeah.
I'm going to be
It's almost
shot. I'm
racist.
going to be shot, aren't I?
You have to sell a bit of kilt tomorrow. So there's a punishment.
So now that I've worked that out, that changes the complexion of what I'm going to say here.
Yeah.
So Poole by 12.
Poole by 10.
All by 14.
Okay. Next up is Birmingham against Plymouth in the Championship.
Very important match for.
Yep. The return of James Pearson, of course.
No, but yeah, I mean that's going to be interesting, and Mr. Thompson as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and we've got a little changed lineup because who's now moved down to reserve? I forgot now. Oh well, I've been really following this, as you can tell.
Mostly taking an interest.
So yeah, it's up to you, Matt.
Birmingham by 4.
I'll go Birmingham by 8.
I'm going to say a draw. I have no confidence in this team at all.
Okay, then next up is Peterborough against Leicester. Crucial match for the Lions.
It's up to you, Chris.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, who was it again?
You, Chris.
What was it? Which team?
Peterborough versus Leicester. Very, very, very. You've got to get this right.
Okay, then Peterborough by 6.
Leicester would take that.
Peterborough by 10.
Hold on.
God.
Hold on.
You did speak.
Peterborough by 6 as well.
Peterborough by 10.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
Sheffield against Wolves is the next one.
And that's up to me. Sheffield by 4.
Sheffield by 10.
Sheffield by 12.
Nobody's very confident in I
Okay.
think you'd take a loss by 4, though, wouldn't you?
Yep. Okay. Friday, Edinburgh against Plymouth in the Championship.
And this is up to you, Matt.
Edinburgh by 10, which I believe would confirm their top 6 spot.
Edinburgh by 8.
I want to say Plymouth by 20, but Edinburgh by 12.
Okay. Next up is here we go into the NDL. It's Bellevue against Leicester.
And it's up to Chris, yeah.
Bellevue by 4.
Bellevue by 10.
I'll say Bellevue by 10 as well. Okay. Next up in the Championship, Glasgow against Oxford.
It's Mike.
Glasgow by 8.
Glasgow by 12.
Glasgow by 10.
Just go straight out in the middle there.
Okay, next up, Scunthorpe against Berwick.
And that's up to you, Matt.
Scunthorpe by 20.
Scunthorpe by 18.
I'm going to go Scunthorpe by 20 as well.
Okay. Next up, the second one of a double header at Edinburgh. Edinburgh against Birmingham.
Ooh, that's up to me, isn't it?
Yep.
Edinburgh by 10.
Edinburgh by 10.
Edinburgh by 12. Okay, next up in the NDL, Leicester against Workington.
That's to me, isn't it?
Yep.
Is this the NDL, did you say?
Yes.
Of course it is, it's Workington. I'm going to say Leicester by 10.
Leicester by 14.
Oh, Leicester by 12.
Okay, next up in the Championship, Berwick against Plymouth.
Is that to me? Is it?
Yep. No,
No.
it's Matt. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Berwick by 20.
Berwick by 16.
Berwick by 8.
Okay. Then we got the second leg of the NDL Knockout Cup semi-final, Leicester against Workington.
That's up to me, isn't it? Leicester
It
by
is.
6.
Leicester by 10.
To Mike.
Give me time to think.
You haven't got time
Leicester
to
by
think.
6.
Can't give you time to think, we'll be here all afternoon.
Wow. Wow.
See the cogs moving.
I can hear 'em. Okay, next up in the NDL, Kent against Edinburgh Academy.
Now it's up to Mike.
Kent by 10.
Kent by 6.
I'll go Kent by 8 down the middle.
Okay, also on Sunday in the NDL, Mildenhall against Workington.
Up to Matt.
Mildenhall by 16.
Mildenhall by 20.
Mildenhall by 12.
Okay, in the Championship, Redcar against Glasgow.
Glasgow by 4.
Glasgow by 2.
Redcar by 4.
It's going to be a close one.
Yep. Okay, then on Monday, Peterborough against Wolves.
It's up to Mike.
Peterborough by 4.
Peterborough by 10.
Peterborough by 8.
Okay, and then finally on Monday we've got the first leg of the Premiership Knockout Cup final, Sheffield against Ipswich.
Yeah, it's up to you, Matt.
Ipswich by 4.
Ipswich by 10.
Draw.
Although it was an interesting second leg. Of course, Ipswich, I think, now obviously it looks like they are going to miss out on the top 4, so
This will be there.
That'll be the consolation prize if they can win the Knockout Cup. So, okay,
Yeah, and that concludes.
36 apiece at Plymouth against Berwick, and meanwhile at Oxford, it's now Oxford 31, Scunthorpe 29. So Scunthorpe staging a bit of a fight back in that one. They've had 8, 9 and 10. They've picked up a 5-1 and 2-4-2. So Scunthorpe right back in it.
Duncan Pemberton has got an interesting question. Is Chris Bummer Harris going to be allowed a winner's medal for whoever wins the leagues, as he has represented about every team this season in just about every league?
Well, Jimmy Nielsen guested in the Knockout Cup final in '89 for Wolves and in I think it was Wolves in the first leg and Crowley in the second leg, and he actually got a winner's and losers medal.
No.
In the same final. This was 1989. So
that was a question. That was a question you should have posed. That
This sport is crazy.
only in Speedway. Only in Speedway.
Just before we do go, which is in 4 minutes, we've got some good news and we've got some bad news, haven't we, over the next few weeks?
Okay.
So we're off.
Not next week.
There's no show.
There is next week.
After next week.
After next week. Okay.
After next.
Yeah,
So next week is the last show
for about 3 weeks.
For
We
about 3
think.
weeks,
Yeah.
and then we're going to come back and we're going to do
Yeah,
One
well,
more
we'll
show
talk
now.
more about that
Yeah.
next week. Also, we was going to ask our listener. We had a question to ask them. You forgot this, so
Yeah, I have, yeah.
We are considering doing an outside broadcast.
Of course, yeah. We would like to know, would anybody up for it? I mean, what are people's views? Do they think it would work? And
Would
of course,
they come?
would they come? Basically, we've got to think about locations.
Yeah.
So it's got to be pretty central. So, but if anybody's up for it and they think it would work,
Possibly start of the next season. We're thinking about, and we'll look at
Yeah.
guests and so on for it. But
just in a pub, relaxed atmosphere, same sort of thing, but with an audience.
with an audience. So if we'd quite like to do that. But so is there an appetite for it? What do you reckon? Let us know.
Yeah.
Postcards and all the rest of it.
Yeah, they can throw things at us, then.
Yeah.
They buy us a drink as well. So.
Oh, come on. These are Speedway fans.
So that was that, and this is this. Berica 39.38 up at the moment, so that's a tight old match. Mick Scotton says good evening. We're about to say goodbye. There was something about why don't you do outside broadcast around several tracks in the UK?
Love to.
Maybe. I mean, that is
Love to.
a
Set it up.
possibility. We'd need to talk to different tracks
You
and
need to speak
see.
to promoters on that, wouldn't you? Whether they would allow you to do it. So.
And also we need a really decent internet connection as well. So, Fred Brown, great to hear a few more positive stories around Speedway. Good crowds around all tracks recently, especially Wolves and Peterborough shows. There are people out there that love our sport. Thanks, Mike, for getting Glasgow and the Monarchs from Edinburgh mixed up. I'm so sorry.
God.
Just like we get Midlands clubs that confuse the Birmingham Wolves and the Leicester Bryans and the Wolverhampton Lions. Yeah, I deserve that. Keep banging the drums. Love the show. You're more than welcome.
I mean, you're not bored.
Pete Clark says he's missed the show tonight. Still at the track laying sheets. Only 4 volunteers tonight. Ouch.
So he's not one sheet.
Ben says he's up for it as well. Yeah.
Hurry up, lads! They're dwindling. Okay.
What the
There you
tracks
go.
do, we can do. Well, they are. They are as stupid as it sounds.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We won't be doing one at Wolverhampton next year, unfortunately. But hopefully over the close
Well, there's plenty
season
of
we'll get
pubs in
some.
Wolverhampton we could do it in. So.
Well, there is that.
That's all we need, a pub and a beer.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
So okay, well, with that, I guess it's time for us to say toodaloo.
Okay.
I joked about not being interested in Birmingham, Plymouth tomorrow, but I will be there. I'd like to see as many of you as can make it to be there. I've no idea what I'm going to do when Troy Batchelor makes the track. Probably nothing, because that's the safest bet. However, everybody enjoy your Speedway while you've still got it, and we'll see you next week. Adios.
Good night.
Go night.
Speedway Tavern, enjoy your stay. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. What's the news today? Have a drink, have your say. All opinions here today. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Enjoy your stay. Ready?